The modern world is deeply obsessed with the concept of sanctuary, an invisible perimeter where the hypervisible can finally shed the heavy weight of global scrutiny and live without the constant fear of intrusion. For decades, audiences across the globe have watched the unfolding drama of lives lived entirely within the relentless glare of flashbulbs, where every casual gesture is passed for hidden meaning and every quiet sigh is amplified into an international headline. We find ourselves naturally drawn to the delicate, often contentious mechanics of public life, frequently questioning where the true boundary lies between a legitimate need for personal safety and the performative choreography of elite status. True security is almost always silent, operating completely unnoticed in the shadows of power to neutralize threats before they ever materialize, yet in the contemporary media landscape, it has transformed into a profound statement of identity and prestige. When an individual demands the highest tiers of state-sponsored protection, it is never merely a practical calculation about physical dangers on the ground. It becomes a symbolic declaration of their perceived place within the global hierarchy. The world watches this intricate dance with a mixture of fascination and growing skepticism, wondering whether the anxieties whispered behind closed doors are rooted in the harsh realities of an increasingly volatile world, or if they are carefully cultivated to justify a broader narrative of permanent displacement and unique vulnerability. This brings us directly to a singular, gripping narrative that has captured the collective imagination across multiple continents, a story of an impending journey fraught with unspoken tension and deep-seated institutional friction. A prominent family, having dramatically crossed an ocean years ago to forge a completely independent existence beneath the sun of Southern California, now stands on the precipice of a highly anticipated, deeply complicated return to the ancient soil of the United Kingdom. The sheer anticipation of this cross-Atlantic crossing has generated a parallel industry of media speculation, drawing sharp contrasts between the quiet, orderly life of traditional institutions and the high-octane, brand-driven environment of modern celebrity. Analysts and observers are left to unpack the complex psychological landscape of this transition, where the desire to support meaningful global initiatives must constantly battle against a perceived atmosphere of hostility and acute danger. The narrative is no longer just about a physical destination or a simple family visit. It has evolved into an intense exploration of legacy, alienation, and the heavy price of walking away from a centuries-old structure only to find that the invisible ties of heritage and public expectation cannot be so easily severed by a transatlantic flight. To fully comprehend the thick atmosphere surrounding this upcoming event, one must carefully look at the profound contrast between two entirely different worlds that are currently locked in a silent ideological struggle. On one side lies the sun-drenched sanctuary of Montecito, an exclusive enclave designed for ultimate privacy, where the elite can curate their public image through carefully metered glimpses, controlled photographs, and strategic statements that protect the next generation from the corrosive nature of the public eye. On the other side stands the historic landscape of Britain, a realm governed by deep-seated traditions, meticulous institutional protocols, and a public that prides itself on seeing right through the elaborate choreography of modern public relations. As the date of the proposed visit rapidly approaches, the air thickens with questions about what is truly required to guarantee peace of mind for a family that has entirely redefined its relationship with the global public. Before we dive deeper into the specific institutional decisions and the intense debates currently shaking the foundations of this high-profile dynamic, take a quick moment to engage with our channel by subscribing. ensuring you never miss a single chapter of this unfolding story as we continue to analyze the hidden forces shaping modern culture and public life. The impending arrival has sparked a relentless countdown in the media. An eye-rolling exercise in public optics where every minor logistical detail becomes a fierce battleground for narrative supremacy. Observers note a growing sense of frustration among the public and security experts alike, who view the ongoing deliberations not as a genuine logistical challenge to be solved by professionals, but as an unnecessary sideshow that actively detracts from the actual substance of the philanthropic work being done. The central question hovering over the entire discourse is whether a major global metropolis and its highly secure surrounding pastoral estates are genuinely unsafe for a returning son and his young family, or if the entire dispute is an expression of deep-seated anxiety over status, consistency, and institutional parity. As rumors continue to swirl regarding arrival times, secret accommodation details, and the precise nature of the welcome they will receive from estranged relatives. The stark contrast between those members of the family who walk among the public with relative ease and those who demand a perpetual fortress of state protection becomes completely impossible to ignore. This mounting tension sets the perfect stage for a dramatic revelation of facts, where the lines between objective threat assessments and personal expectations blur, leaving an expectant global audience to wonder what will truly happen when these conflicting realities finally collide on the tarmac. At the absolute center of this unfolding drama lies a highly secretive and formidable institutional body known as the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, commonly referred to in elite security circles as RAVE-C. This specialized independent committee operates quietly within the complex apparatus of the British state, tasked with the immense responsibility of determining exactly who receives public-funded automatic police protection on British soil. Unlike commercial private security firms, which are readily available to any high-net-worth individual willing to pay a premium, RAVE-C commands the specialized assets of the state, including armed officers, advanced counter-intelligence streaming, and diplomatic-grade security protocols. When a prominent individual chooses to step back from the official duties of a working royal life, stepping onto what was dramatically called the Freedom Flight to North America, they fundamentally alter their legal and structural relationship with this protective framework. The core of the current crisis emerged from a stark reality, a decisive legal battle where the state firmly asserted that automatic high-level protection cannot simply be retained as a personal birthright or used as an elite status symbol when an individual is no longer actively executing official state duties on behalf of the Crown. The resulting legal and public relations fallout has revealed a profound chasm between personal perception and institutional reality on the ground. Reports have surfaced indicating that the committee was expected by many to completely re-evaluate the security status of the returning prince, especially given the high-profile nature of his upcoming public appearances and the potential inclusion of his young family on this journey. For months, media speculation suggested that a comprehensive reassessment was underway, a formal review that would likely grant the increased protection, the full bells and whistles, that the prince has passionately argued is absolutely essential for his survival. However, inside information from veteran journalistic sources shattered this narrative, revealing that the committee did not even think the matter was worthy of a formal reassessment. The highly anticipated debate never even happened, and the previous firm decisions of the committee remained entirely unchanged. This institutional silence was a monumental blow to the narrative of extreme, unique vulnerability that had been carefully constructed across the Atlantic. leaving the returning family in a highly sensitive and deeply complicated rhetorical position. This definitive refusal by the State Committee exposes a deep paradox that has fueled accusations of institutional hypocrisy from a highly frustrated public. For years, the narrative originating from the quiet enclave of Montecito has emphasized that the United Kingdom is fundamentally unsafe, an inherently dangerous environment where the family could not possibly travel without a permanent ironclad wall of state-sponsored armed protection. Yet, if the family does indeed proceed with their scheduled visit under the existing non-automatic security arrangements, it creates an unavoidable logical trap. Their arrival would heavily suggest that the standard baseline security measures provided by the state, combined with coordinated private logistics, were always entirely capable of supporting a perfectly safe and successful visit. If a safe trip is completely possible under the current rules, the public is left to ask a deeply uncomfortable question about the long, painful years of separation, wondering how the couple can possibly justify keeping a grandfather, the reigning king, isolated from his young grandchildren for so long based on an alleged threat that the state's highest security experts do not even deem worthy of a formal meeting. To further understand the deep frustration surrounding this high-profile standoff, one must look at the stark operational contrast presented by other prominent members of the royal family. Figures like Zara and Mike Tyndall routinely navigate public spaces, equestrian events, and busy metropolitan areas with an admirable lack of overt drama, carrying themselves with a practical, low-profile approach that keeps them remarkably safe. Security experts frequently point out that the true threat level facing any high-profile individual is often directly amplified by their own demands for intense, highly visible public attention. There is a widespread consensus among seasoned protection professionals that if the returning couple were to simply enter the country quietly, operating entirely under the radar, without the pre-planned media choreography and the constant demands for specialized state validation, they would find themselves as safe as anyone could reasonably expect in a modern, sophisticated society. The intense need for the bells and whistles of state security is increasingly viewed not as a rational response to an objective physical danger, but as a symbolic requirement to maintain a parallel status to the working members of the royal family, most notably the Prince and Princess of Wales. This psychological battle over status and public perception extends directly into the volatile world of modern social media, where every public gesture is interpreted as a strategic counterpoint in a global public relations war. Recently, the public was treated to a warm, authentic glimpse of the Princess of Wales alongside Prince George, an image that resonated deeply with a public craving stability and traditional continuity. Almost immediately, media observers began a cynical countdown, waiting with bated breath to see how the Montecito branch would counter this moment of positive institutional press. This ongoing game of media chess has led to a sense of profound exhaustion among ordinary citizens who watch the serious, complex business of state security and family heritage reduced to a petty sideshow of competing photo opportunities and calculated lifestyle announcements. The public fatigue is palpable, marked by an eye-rolling frustration as the world anticipates whatever next engineered media moment will fill the headlines between now and the fast-approaching week of their scheduled arrival, transforming what should be a meaningful personal return into an unedifying spectacle of modern celebrity survival. To truly understand why this intricate security standoff matters on a global scale, one must look beyond the immediate logistics of armored vehicles and state-sponsored bodyguards to examine the deeply complex human biographies at the absolute center of this historic alienation. At the heart of this narrative is a prince whose life has been profoundly shaped by a unique, lifelong relationship with public visibility, service, and institutional duty. Born into the strict confines of an ancient line of succession, his early years were marked by the rigid expectations of state service, a path that eventually led him to a distinguished decade-long career in the military, including 2 high-profile tours of duty in active combat zones. These intense, real-world experiences forged an individual deeply attuned to operational security, but they also cultivated a permanent, heightened state of vigilance regarding personal safety and the protection of his immediate family. His accomplishments as a military officer and his deep involvement with global initiatives for wounded veterans earned him significant respect, including high-profile accolades such as being named a living legend in aviation, a title that reflected his enduring connection to the high-stakes world of military flight and global elite networks. Yet, this background of intense service and personal achievement stands in stark contrast to the completely different life trajectory of his wife, a self-made woman who navigated the competitive landscapes of North American media, entertainment, and digital branding long before stepping into the global spotlight of the British monarchy. Her background was rooted in the fast-paced, highly strategic world of commercial entertainment, where public relations, brand curation, and the meticulous management of one's public image are the primary currencies of success. When these 2 entirely different worlds collided in a highly publicized union, the resulting cultural friction was perhaps inevitable. While the prince viewed security through the serious lens of military operations and inherited state protection, his partner brought an acute understanding of how visibility, privacy, and public messaging could be utilized to build a powerful, independent global identity. This fundamental difference in perspective has directly shaped their approach to the current security dispute, turning a pragmatic legal discussion into a highly dramatic, public-facing crusade for validation as the couple prepared for their highly anticipated return for major international events like the Invictus Games. The underlying tensions within this partnership became increasingly apparent to seasoned observers. Behind the scenes, the mechanics of their travel planning revealed a profound reluctance on her part to step back onto British soil, a terrain where she widely recognizes she is on stony ground with a highly skeptical public. Royal experts and security analysts note that any public engagement she participates in must be micromanaged to an extraordinary degree, from the exact moment of her arrival to the final second of her departure, with strict instructions given to event organizers to completely insulate her from anything remotely controversial or unscripted. This intense level of management suggests that the anxiety surrounding the visit is not merely about physical safety from external threats, but about an intense desire to protect a carefully curated global brand from the unpredictable, authentic reactions of a disillusioned public that has grown weary of the continuous transatlantic drama. This underlying tension was further highlighted by critical operational details that emerged regarding the strict 28 days notice required by British security agencies for high-profile visits. Reports indicated that when the initial mandatory logistical information was submitted to state authorities, the critical details regarding the inclusion of the wife and children were conspicuously absent, arriving only much later in the planning process. This late disclosure has led to widespread speculation among protection experts that the entire process was being utilized as a tool for strategic manipulation, a calculated effort to force the hand of state committees by presenting them with a sudden, high-profile family arrival that would pressure them into granting the coveted state protection. However, the expert committee stood completely firm. demonstrating that their objective threat assessments are entirely immune to the sophisticated public relations maneuvers and shifting timetables of modern international celebrities. The deeper significance of this ongoing institutional stalemate lies in its profound impact on the broader family dynamic, most notably the prolonged, painful isolation of the reigning monarch from his youngest grandchildren. For years, the public has watched with growing sadness as the historic family bond is systematically eroded by a dispute over security protocols that the state's highest experts have deemed entirely unnecessary. The reality on the ground remains that within the highly secure, fortified environments of the royal estates or exclusive, private enclaves like Soho Farmhouse, the family would find themselves as safe as anywhere on Earth. The continuing refusal to allow these young children to experience their true heritage and build a meaningful relationship with their grandfather is increasingly viewed not as a necessary precaution for their physical survival, but as a deliberate choice driven by a desire for narrative leverage and institutional parity with the working members of the crown. Ultimately, this entire saga serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the immense perils of attempting to balance the heavy responsibilities of historic heritage with the volatile demands of modern commercial celebrity. True state security is a solemn, quiet duty designed exclusively to protect the functioning mechanics of government and public service. It can never be transformed into a personal perk or a commercial asset to enhance an independent lifestyle brand. As the fast-approaching deadline for their arrival finally comes to pass, the world watches to see if this estranged family can finally learn to operate under the radar with a sense of practical humility, or if they will continue to transform what should be a quiet, dignified personal return into an endless,